This episode of Legendary is brought to you guys by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and free audiobook, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome! Patch 5.4 is here. We know you're all excited about it, so we're here to talk about it. It's Legendary episode 143, September 12th, 2013. I'm your host, Mike Shafton. Coming up, Connected Realms. Hey, it might help if I actually hit the camera. You might like to see our faces instead of just that, that splash screen. Coming up, Connected Realms. A little bit of an update there. Ordos and the Legendary Quest Chain, patch 5.4, and we're going to finish this off with a major spoiler, but we're saving it for the end, so for those of you who care, you can hang out with us up until the final minutes of the show. All that and more, but first, you guys know him, you guys love him. I can't even remember what songs you did. Mr. Slash Roll to Get Lucky himself.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Definitely.
Mr. Pat Crane.
Thank you. Hi.
How's it
Yeah, it was
going?
Blurred Lines and Get Lucky, little mashup that we did over on Convert to Raid. If you heard it there, you heard it before the show tonight as well. If you're here live, so thank you.
So I got a question, Pat.
Yeah.
Patch 5.4 is here. Did you get lucky? Did you slash roll to get lucky?
I got lucky. I didn't even need to slash roll to get lucky on that thing. I got all sorts of lucky. It's awesome. I actually got my legendary cloak.
Ooh.
So, yeah, you know, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he came out. He's the people's champion. And you got Oprah. She came out, and they said, you get a legendary cloak. You get the people's cloak, man. That's what it is. That's all I got.
We'll get into that in just a second. But also joining us from the HXC podcast and assistant producer of Waypoint, you guys know him. You've seen him all over Twitter, Mr. Squishy, Jeremy Quick.
How's it going?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good tonight. How about yourself? You gonna get all angry tonight?
Yes, I am. I'm gonna try and reserve my anger. I have a lot of emotional anger about it, but I actually have a lot of positivity about the game now that I've played it enough. We'll get into it. We'll get into all the changes because I'll have plenty of time to rage. Trust me.
I cannot wait.
First up, though, let's start on a little lighthearted thing here. So, first up, community manager Netheria, she came over to the forums to pretty much give an update about Connected Realms. She had this to say. She said, "We plan to begin the rollout of the feature with just a couple of realms, and we have determined that the first realms will be connected. The first realms to be connected will be Boulder Fist and Blood Scalp. We'll provide another update once we finalize the date." So. We talked a little bit about this on Waypoint, Squishy, you brought this up, was that Connected Realms were supposed to come out with 5.4, but they got delayed. Now it looks like we're going to get our very first one. They're kind of announcing the first two to come together. But my question for you guys here is do you think that will this be enough? Will two smaller servers be enough to kind of spark the whole Connected Realm revolution to life here, or where do you guys stand? Are you still for or against Connected Realms at this point?
Well, I think it's needed for sure. I mean, Connected Realms is one of those things. There are a lot of people in low pop realms that want to move somewhere because they just aren't finding enough people. The two servers in question are not necessarily what I would call like extremely low pop servers. They are actually about somewhere between 45 and 65,000 characters as it was on realmpop.com. And so they said it's, about 50,000 tunes per, which is actually, when you combine those, that's a pretty healthy server size. And so I think this is a good test of it. That's for sure. I don't think it will necessarily do anything for faction balance, because I think they are both. I think they're both Horde side, or they're one side or the other. I mean, for the most part. And so it's not really going to do anything for faction balance, but it is going to be a good test to see how this system works and to see what fixes they may want to have as they move forward into this. So I think it'll be good.
Squishy, what are your thoughts?
Just to pull off of Pat's thoughts, they are in fact 3-1 Horde side, so okay. It isn't going to balance it anyway in terms of Horde, but it's going to be a start. And other than that, we can't really tell, because maybe these guys actually like playing on a somewhat low pop server, whereas when you combine two of them, maybe they'll be okay with it still because it's not completely packed, but if you start adding more and more, then there may be problems where people start complaining that the economy is too good now.
What do you guys?
It's too strong. The economy is too strong now. We have to give up on the whole damn thing. Let's get out of here, guys. Let's just pack it up.
What do you guys think about like the fact of like considering, you know, faction balance? Grisha, you kind of brought that up, because I think that ultimately I get that there are some people out there that enjoy being on a very heavy Horde or heavy Alliance server for the imbalancedness of it, but this seems like such a great opportunity to take those realms that are offset and bring them together so that it's a perfect, you know, not 1-to-1, but much more than it's a disparative 3-to-1 kind of ratio there. Do you think that's the more successful route that they could go with this, instead of maybe trying to bring up the population?
I don't think that there's necessarily a need to bring it up for PvE realms or RP realms. I think what you're looking at is when it comes to PvP, those types of realms, you want to make sure that there's more of a balance, because you actually want there to be some sort of world combat. I mean, that would make the most sense to me anyway. So, but with RP and PvE realms, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I kind of agree. I just kind of want to say, but in some ways, maybe just being the devil's advocate here again, somebody likes playing on a completely Horde-populated server, just so they don't have to run around and get ganked anywhere. So just a completely flip side.
But if
I don't think Blizzard can win with this one.
I think that it's all. If you're really going to sit there and complain about not wanting to get ganked, why are you on a PvP server? I think anyone would say that argument. Blizzard would say that. And I'm not I get you're just kind of playing devil's advocate here, but I don't get that mentality. I've never understood that mentality for the people that get upset when they get ganked. It's like, you kind of asked for it. If you don't want that environment, don't play on that kind of server.
Yeah, unless of course you're playing on like one of those really super high pop servers. I think Illidan is super high pop and has like 99% Horde. There's like one Alliance guy over there going, "What am I gonna do? You know, am I gonna kill you? No, probably not." So, you know, it's when you're on those types of servers, I understand that people are not expecting actual PvP to be happening, but
it's great. I'm on a server. I'm on a server that's so far fluctuated. Like literally, it's like 4 Alliance and 100 billion Horde on the Timeless Isles. But there's just like this unspoken like indifference about the Horde. They just don't care. So Alliance just run right through them, and they're just like, you do what you're doing, I'll do what I'm doing. Just go about your life. It's great.
I actually know someone that's on a server like that, and like even if he probably doesn't have enough money to or want to transfer off the server, and that's the problem. If he was combined with an actual, if the servers were even, so then there would actually be PvP. He'd be stuck on a PvP server, but doesn't want a PvP, and that's just kind of a problem. That's kind of been there since they wanted to up World PvP since Cataclysm.
So what do you guys think here? Now, she had kind of come out and I think it was Netharia, right? Yeah, Netharia. Yeah. She came out and said that we'll provide an update once we have a finalized date. You guys have any speculation on what date she's going to come back with?
Before BlizzCon. That's what I'm going to say.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for humoring my question.
I think that they're going deliberately slow because they really want to make sure this is going to be a permanent change for these guys. It's not like they're doing everything except for actually merging servers in this case. So they want to make sure that it's a good fit as they do it. it's going to be tough once they put these realms together to pull them apart. So I understand that they want to work slowly, make sure that everything is working okay, make sure that everybody can kind of do everything that they need to, and still kind of, you know, play their game with these new folk. So yeah, go slow, Blizz. Please make it right. That's all I'm saying.
And I mean, I guess it makes a little bit of sense to test it with a small sample pool. We see that kind of even with the Real Money Auction House. We've talked about how they're kind of afraid to bring that to America, so they're going to try it in China first. I mean, it's very possible that they're just like, okay, here's the realms. We're going to, even if they get it everything wrong, at least it's only 2 servers that are affected. I'm sure those 2 servers are going to hate it, but at least when they start rolling it out to the masses, it's a little bit more fine-tuned, and they can make sure that it's proper for everyone.
Yeah.
What about the fact of like connected realms here? Do you think that these have the potential to replace cross realm zones? Because that tech, when that tech originally came out, I kind of was just like, oh, this is a perfect way to make server merges without making server merges. And they're kind of going to that step without calling it and making it connected realms. But are they still going to have cross realm zones at this point in the lower levels if they actually get the balance of the population right?
I could only really see it for the lower levels. There's really no, because there's really no other place I could see it, if at all. Maybe they'll just trash it if they're not going to use it that often, but I think it eventually will, when everything's fleshed out. But that might be a while.
Yeah, it is kind of one of those things where even on medium and high pop servers, those lower level zones don't get a lot of action. They don't really see a lot. I don't know of too many people flying around Eastern and Western Plaguelands going, oh my god, it's so busy around here, and they're all from my server. No, that's not the way that it goes. So they're all, I think that they still need the CRZ, or as Olivia, who's not here, would say, CRZ. And so they still need all that stuff to make sure that those zones are filled out properly.
All right, so let's move on here because we have so much to talk about.
There's nothing going on this week, Mike.
Nothing. That's it. Thanks for watching. That's the show.
Yeah,
follow Squishy, follow Pat, follow myself. See you guys.
Later.
Before we do, though, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor that we have right here on Game Breaker, and it's a great sponsor to have because what better to have a sponsor that you actually use? And of course, we're talking about Shutterstock.com. We use it all of the time. And it's just a great tool to have when you're a part of the video industry. There's, in this week's League of Legends Waypoint, I was talking about a new champion that came to the game, and there's just, first off, I came across these vortex graphics specifically to kind of do this little tease about Forecast Drana. But I honestly, like, this is the versatility that Shutterstock has. I can tell you right now, as someone who likes to focus on video creation and not necessarily the asset creation, but I do know a lot of After Effects, creating this is not easy. There are a lot of moving elements. There's a lot of thought, a lot of creation, not to mention just the vortex alone is difficult. And it saves so much time to just have the resource available to come here and be able to purchase these kind of assets for what you're doing rather than having to design them yourself. So if you guys haven't checked out Shutterstock, it's an amazing service. It's got over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, video clips like this one, as well as a whole bunch of vectors. And it's just a great service to have if you want to be a part of the video industry. So I highly recommend that you guys go check out Shutterstock. And if you do, be sure to use the offer code GameBreaker9, and you'll get 20% off your brand new account. All right, let's move on here. We've talked a lot in the past about the Legendary Quest line and kind of the barrier of entry for the world boss of this of this patch, which is Ordos. So Zarim basically came out and commented on the forums because everyone's going crazy right now. According to the internet and according to the forums, by locking away Ordos, they've locked away almost. They might as well have just not even released the Timeless Isles because that's all there is to do.
Right. That's the only thing ever.
That's it.
It's a boring island.
Yeah,
it is.
There's no action. There's no quests. There's no other ways to get loot. There's no, like 496 loot just kind of strewn all over the beaches.
It's just Ordos.
Yeah.
No
So
PvP.
here's what Zarm had to say in regards to everyone's complaining. It is correct that you need the legendary cloak to fight Fire God Ordos. It is not half of the Timeless Island. It's one boss. Literally one thing. I lost my train of thought in my emote. One thing on the island that you can't access without the legendary cloak. You can still get access to the surrounding areas of Ordos using the albatrosses. Now I'll get in. Listen, Mr. Zarm, I'll get into the albatrosses here in a second because I don't agree with you about that. But he does have a point. The only thing you don't get access to here is Ordos. So he continues on to say that Ordos is analogous to Undasa and Galleon in terms of difficulty and loot quality, but it isn't just another rare spawn that everybody can jump in and zerg right away. First off, everybody who got their legendary cloak right on day one already jumped in and zerged that boss down. So I don't know if that worked day one. Will that work over the course of time? Maybe. Now, I have not earned my legendary cloak yet, but Jeremy, I know you were looking for a group on day one. Pat, I know you said you earned your cloak. So have either of you guys fought Ordos at this point?
Yes.
Jeremy, is he as difficult? They were touting that they wanted him to be this boss that was just difficult, that the Doom Lord Kazakh, will you say? Did they achieve that?
Absolutely not. It's not even close. From the dungeon journal from the PTR, I looked through his abilities. They look pretty difficult. He had a 5-minute hardened rage where he wipes the entire raid, and they said that he would lock all players in. And then they gave him only 600 million health. What to do? Right. I've killed him on Fortunes. Granted, I'm on a high pop server, but there's been no issues, and groups are still forming almost 24/7 on my servers, so it's not even close to what they wanted, I don't think.
So, and I'm on a high pop server too, and I've seen groups, go through all the time or forming all the time through there. I just got my legendary cloak, by the way, just for full information. I got the legendary cloak literally a half hour before the show went live.
Why haven't you done Ordos yet?
Right, exactly. It says I had to
Groups
do
are forming
show
all
prep.
the time, sir.
Thanks.
And according to Squishy, it's only a 5-minute enrage timer, so you got plenty of time. You would have had 25 minutes to spare.
I just got done fighting all the Celestials. I thought it was time for a break. I would take a break.
So what do you guys
rest.
What do you guys think here? Now, if the fight wasn't mechanically tough, because they wanted, that was the cool idea of it. It was this really difficult boss that you kind of had to be at the top of your game to go participate in. But according to you, Jeremy, it kind of fell short. So do you think that forcing players here to kind of complete the quest chain in order to get the fight done is even doing a good job of keeping it away from that everybody just goes zerg the boss? Because it's not. And ultimately, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a way to reward those people that went through this big long quest chain in order to get this reward of the legendary cloak. The legendary cloak is cool, don't get me wrong. It has a shiny thing that happens for every role that is out there, and you can do cool stuff, and it's a great proc. Awesome. But on top of that, you also get a loot pinata known as Ordos that you can go and pick off anytime that you want, and you don't have to worry about some scrub coming along and trying to do it any harm. So I mean, it's kind of like your own personal loot pinata, right? And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that that's a reward.
But that's not what they intended.
Intentions are always I don't know. Intentions are always initially good, but that's not always how they end up. I mean, if it is a loot pinata, as Squishy said, then I think that's still okay. This is a reward. It's kind of like the rewards for doing group content for Flex and Normals and Heroics. You know how they have the Shaman transmog set, they have the heirloom weapons, those types of things for group content that's not available in LFR. Same type of deal. This is a reward for making more effort in this game. That is what this is. And I actually applaud Blizzard for doing stuff like this, for those people that are putting in time and effort to make their characters better. So, there.
You also just have the people that just don't have the cloak, such as Olivia D. Grace, who is not here currently. But I remember from one of the GamesCon roundtables, they said that 10% of the player base, around 10%, is going to get the legendary cloak, probably. That's what they expect. So it's 10% of the entire player base, but that's still a lot of people that don't get to see this loot pinata, as Pat said. So,
well, is it a loot pinata? That's what I want to know. Let's just answer that question right now.
It's a gold pinata. I wouldn't say loot.
All right.
I mean,
same type of gold is loot.
So with that being said, now we're at the we're on the tail end of Mists of Pandaria. The previous two expansions did world bosses. The big like loot pinatas of previous expansion were you know, Vault of Arcavion or Barret and Hold for that matter.
All right.
What do you guys think? This was kind of a big deal at BlizzCon. They were like, oh, we're gonna bring back world bosses and it's gonna be great. I don't know if they really captured what, you know, I forget what the dragon was that appeared down in Darkshore, but or Darkshire. I don't remember. But the dragons that used to spawn around.
There were 4 of them, right?
Right. I don't know if they've really encapsulated that feeling. And maybe it's because the population's bigger. Maybe it's because people are doing more damage and more competent, but they just don't feel like the same world bosses that we once had.
You know, and part of it may just be rose-colored glasses here, Mike. I mean, you know,
Possible.
That could be part of it. The other thing is that there are a lot more mechanics. There are a lot more things going on in the world, and there are more competent raiders and PvEers out there, so that may all play into it. I don't necessarily think that they've been all pushovers, especially when we first hit level 90 and we were introduced to some of those world bosses around Pandaria. They were not a joke, at least the first few weeks of the expansion. They were bosses that hit fairly hard, and they were kind of difficult to manage, and it was kind of cool when you had the server first group go through and kill all these different bosses out there. So you know, when it came to Nalek, maybe it was down a little bit, but I think the gear was also higher. So I don't know if that's a part of it or not.
I think the biggest problem with world bosses right now is the fact that it's not expected to be group content. You're expected to pug all world bosses at this point, which leads to the whole idea of pug content cannot be challenging. They tried again to do it with Ordos, and it just fell flat. To be honest, most of the world bosses this expansion fell flat. And really the only thing that I can think of that would prevent a world boss from being Zerg is something along the lines where it's an AoE, just a giant AoE group wipe. Like, if you get this debuff that explodes, you know, 5 yards around you and kills anybody in that range, that could get along the way of how to get a world boss back to where it was. But then your problem is you get the griefers who get this debuff and then hearth to org and blow up everybody inside the auction house. Or pass the plague along.
The like best kind of players, I think you meant to say.
Right. And that's the other part of it too, is you got to realize, you got to think about why they want these world bosses out there. Is this to reward people, or is this to make them feel, you know, I mean, if you're talking about griefers and coming up with these mechanics that are maybe too complex for a pug, then I don't know, it's kind of a tough spot, right? You want to be able to have some kind of fun out in the outdoor world, but you don't necessarily want people to wipe time after time after time and get really frustrated on these guys either. So you want to be able to
Really?
have some kind
You
of
don't want
difficulty.
people to, you don't want to create content that people wipe time and 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 time.
Well, you don't want to. You don't want to get them frustrated and leave. You don't want to get them frustrated so that they leave, right? You want to keep them happy. You want to keep them all nice and happy.
Proving
so
grounds don't make me happy.
We'll get into that in a second, Mike. I'm sure. I'm sure we will, and I think basically you're the only one that really has a real problem with it. But you know, whatever.
All right, but before I go on my it's weird because it's not even going to be a rant. It's going to be actually really interesting. Let's get it. We're talking about the Timeless Isles. Let's focus on what's going on there. Okay. What do you guys think of the rest of the island? What's been your favorite feature? Because this is really exciting. This is still, I've yet to get into the Siege of Orgrimmar, but this is still, honestly, I think my favorite implementation in 5.4 because it really changes the way that you play World of Warcraft.
Yeah, the questing is cool, man. I think that they finally got questing right. I mean, really, in the scheme of things, I think the questing is really, really well done. The way that you move around the island to collect different things is really cool. There are some complaints about the rep grind, and I don't disagree with those because the rep grind for the Xiaohao is kind of
old-fashioned. We talk about how we want things to be the way they used to be, and they finally give us something the way it used to be, and now people are complaining.
It's a little slow. You know, I'm getting like 15 to 20 rep for every dude that I kill, and I have to get up to 3,000, and so that means that, oh boy, it's going to be a long day. You know, even if I'm in a group.
You have to fight for tags.
Yeah, and you have to fight for tags, and you have to fight for all that stuff.
So what about what's been your favorite quest? What's been give me an experience, because that's honestly what I feel this Timeless Isle is. Timeless Isle, the quests are more experiences. And I'll start it off. So for me, I forget what it was, but it's the big whale that swims around the outside of the whole entire island. And
oh yeah, Maw.
Evermaw. Yeah, it's Evermaw. Something Evermaw. And it was one of these things. It's one of those fights. I found him, and it was really early in the morning. No one was around, and I was trying to solo him. And I think it could be done if I could just keep up with him. I had actually gotten an item that increased my swim speed by 200% and allowed me to attack while moving. So like, as long as you could keep up with him, he's totally soloable and he's fun. The funny part is I feel like his mechanics fell flat. Like, I don't want to say fell flat, but it's just funny because it's very clear the way that Blizzard designed that encounter to be. You're swimming, you've got, you know, these different portals that you need to swim through to get plus damage, or you basically lose the ability to regenerate resources if you go through the dark portals. But the way that he's killed is literally you just get a shaman or a death knight and they're just like, give me water walking. And now you just basically run on top of the water and you skip the whole entire encounter.
Right.
But it was still, like, I don't know, like, I think that's, out of everything I've done so far on the island, I think that that was the one kind of fight so far that stood out.
The thing with Evermaw was that it was really hard to keep up with that whale. And then every once in a while, it would just turn around and just one-shot somebody. Just be like, turn around, just boom,
the
dead.
fatigue! The fatigue was so annoying! But it was so much fun! Like, I was frustrated, but I was having a lot of fun. Pat, do you have anything that really kind of stands out?
Not really. I mean, you know, it was kind of going through and killing a bunch of rares with groups and stuff like that. I think that's always kind of fun, is just kind of banding together with a bunch of different people and going and killing rares is kind of an interesting thing. The Celestial battles, those are fun. As I said earlier tonight, I finished those up. I wrapped them up for the Legendary, and all of those are really fun. And yeah, I think that was probably the highlight of things so far, the Celestial battles.
Squish, what about you?
I have two things. One is the broken bridge that's on top of the pathway. People don't know that you need the cloak to jump that gap.
Yeah.
So I've seen many people, you know, jump across with the cloak, and I picture them as the Roadrunner. And then there's the Wile E. Coyote that doesn't have the cloak, that just runs off the edge and falls to his death. But yeah, that's always fun watching that one. But the other thing is definitely the albatrosses. They're such a weird but interesting mechanic that one of the quests takes you on.
Explain. Okay, real quick. Hang on. Explain what the point of the albatrosses is, because I had a problem, and I want to say this real quick because I want to get this out. I'm not even gonna try and rage about this, but I hope Blizzard sees this and fixes this, because there's a problem with feral druids. The albatrosses, when you attack them, they pick you up. Then when they get hit, you have to kill them so that they drop you. You can't shapeshift when you're in their thing. So I'm literally sitting there hitting the thing with just my weapon and ooming myself trying to spam Wrath to get myself out of the albatross. So I'll let my rage aside because holy crap, it's annoying. But Blizzard, if you see this, please fix that. Make it so that I can shapeshift, because I can't do anything.
And that's one of the problems that druids have always had, and hunters always lose their pets on things like that, and so. But the shape-shifting thing has always been an issue. I mean, just recently they made it so that, balanced druids could finally retain their form and ride a mount at the same time. I mean, finally! It's only been like 8 years, Blizz. Way to go.
There's so many like cosmetic items that I'm getting on the island that like turn me into something, and the second I shapeshift, it takes me out of it, and I'm like, oh, I worked hard for that.
Druids get so screwed on all that stuff. It's amazing.
All right, so albatrosses, Squishy, go ahead.
Right, so there's one quest where you need to hit the albatross to make it pick you up, and then it takes you on a nice, scenic 10-minute tour across the entire island. And you have to eventually hit it to drop yourself into a lake, except I missed. I hit it too early because of the lag delay. So I was about to drop into open water. The lag was so much, though, that it froze for a second, and I managed to kill that albatross and hit the next one behind me and pick myself up before I fell and hit the water because of the lag.
Wow. That's nice.
But,
that's awesome.
The albatrosses are fun, yet annoying when other people kill them for you.
Yeah. And you're going to stop now because I say so. So what do you guys think, though, here? I really, like I said, I like the dynamicness. I like the exploration that I feel once again when playing. Yeah. Do you guys want to see more content like this? And more importantly, do you think Blizzard can embrace this and apply it to the leveling experience of the new expansion?
Oh, man. I don't know about leveling experiences, because that's always kind of tricky because you're dealing with a bunch of different new zones and stuff like that. But I think that they finally got questing right, like I was talking about. I think that they've done a minimal amount of quests with a maximum amount of rewards. I mean, just let's talk about lesser charms for just 1 second. I had like 5 in my bag when I hit the timeless isle. After like 2 hours, I had like 150 or something like that. I mean, it's just crazy. I've never had that many lesser charms before at one time, and so it was just really fun. And then plus you're getting all the timeless coins, and you're getting all the other things that come along with it, all the different gear things that are coming along with that as well. So I mean, it's like tons of loot and minimal quests, but they're fun quests and they last for a long time. So you feel like you can kind of explore the island a little bit more, and I really think that this would be great. And if they could get that into a leveling experience, that'd be fun. But I definitely think that they should try more of this, especially when you're talking about what would you rather do, the 5.0 version of dailies or Timeless Isle? And I think everybody would say, you know what, Timeless Isle, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
What about you, Squishy?
Well, I just mind wiped. What were we talking about again?
if you want to see content, if you want to see stuff like the Timeless Isles while leveling in the new expansion, or would you like to see it again?
So I think the main reason that the Timeless Isle and also the Isle of Thunder is the addition of weekly lockouts that aren't raids. We have something else that's on a weekly lockout, more specifically to the Timeless Isle, the chests that give you the 535 items, the 496 items, and just the weird events, like the one that sends you up in the air, and then you have to fly down. But if this can be applied to leveling somehow, I don't know how exactly it would occur, but I think it'd be a lot of fun. Because I'm having a blast on the Timeless Hour right now.
I just think it would be more, it would bring back like exploration and fun. Like I agree with you. I really like the way that I'm playing on the Timeless Isles. I'm not doing anything, but I'm just kind of running around and experiencing. And if they could find a way to make it so that you level up from that, that'd be it brings back the idea of just logging in to play the game even while leveling, and that's fun.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that it really does kind of force more groups to happen, which is great. I love, you know, part of my thing is that I love raiding, and I love this group play, and this definitely reinforces that a lot. And so the more that they can do things where you actually have to, where you're forced into, not necessarily forced, you're not really forced into it, but in order to clear more content faster, you want to get into those groups, and you're encouraged to get into groups and maybe meet some people on your server. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Maybe they could even combine the Timeless Isle with, maybe not the 5.0 dailies, but 5.1 dailies, where, you know, you complete the dailies, there's some story aspect that goes along as you get rep. I think the combination of both could actually be really good, because I didn't actually mind the 5.0 dailies, but I know a ton of people hated them, so we could probably get the best of both worlds here.
I hated them. I hated them a lot. Like a lot.
I can see the fear in your eyes. You're just like, no, not again.
I was like, every day I'd log in and I go, oh, stupid dailies. All right, here we go. All right.
All right, let's move on here to my favorite topic. So back here in back at BlizzCon 2011, we heard about the amazing feature, of the Proving Grounds, that place where you want to just kill somebody. Where players are able to practice their class in a safe environment, and in patch 5.4, we finally get it added to the game. Now, there are 3 different challenges that are based on your spec. There's a healer, a tank, and a DPS one. 4 different difficulty levels: bronze, silver, go fuck yourself, and endless. Have you guys?
Why are you so angry?
I'll get into my story in a second, because I wasted about 4 to 5 hours of my life. Have you guys managed to try it yet before I unleash my opinion? What did you guys think of your experience, and what spec difficulty did you try, and how far did you make it, Pat?
Well, as far as for me, I was doing the healer stuff. I was trying to do a bunch of different stuff before this show tonight. So I made it through the silver round, no problem, as a druid healer on that. I did do the hunter stuff on the PTR, and that felt pretty good to me when it was on the PTR. And I'm not sure how the DPS check has gone as far as when it went live, but on PTR it felt good as well. So that's been my experience.
Squishy, what about you?
I did tanking and DPSing to gold, and then my druid healer only got to silver, I think.
So you passed through gold.
Quit. I'm sorry?
You passed through gold?
No, I stopped at gold. I think I failed gold.
So here's I literally spent I can't even tell you how long I spent on gold difficulty. So here's what I don't like. I'm perfectly fine with it being difficult. In fact, what I really hate about the Proving Grounds is it's one of those things that's I can visibly see me being able to do, but I was having so much problems with it. And I don't know. I think you guys are probably like this as well. I'm the type of player where if I feel I can do something, I don't want to stop. I don't care if I keep failing time and time again. Like, no, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm skipping lunch. I'm going to finish this.
Completely.
And, oh my gosh. So, okay, I sent out a tweet earlier today that said pretty much fuck Proving Grounds because they play to the weaknesses of the Druid class, which is energy starvation. And it's
Yeah.
true that they do, because
Yeah.
for the past 5, 6, 7 years that I've been playing, I've learned my target rotation. And with Feral Druids, for the most amount of DPS, it's a very single target rotation. You don't,
Yeah.
you get energy starved so fast. It takes all of your energy and your Tiger's Fury to get your rotation up, and to have to target switch is not the proper way to DPS a boss.
No, it is
That being said, I really, really like the way Proving Grounds made me stop and think and analyze my class, figure out what I had to do, how I had to get through it, how to optimize everything, and effectively get through it. Every time that I tried gold and I wiped, and I get to the next stage, I felt better about myself. It felt rewarding. It felt exciting. I'm still frustrated by it, specifically because I don't know if and I don't think every class does. I personally feel like I know the Feral Druid class ins and outs like the back of my hand. I don't even have to think about it. Right. I've seen other classes complete gold, so I know it's not impossible. I know it's not improperly tuned. But like I was saying, the strategy that I had to come up with isn't the proper rotation for me. It was very makeshift. And I learned, I guess, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm not doing the most amount of DPS by doing this. But then some would argue, when I'm doing the proper rotation and not clearing a wave that takes 30 seconds, but doing my makeshift method and clearing it in 15 seconds, some would say I'm doing it properly. And from Blizzard's perspective, I think you can agree. I'm doing it properly because I'm clearing the wave. But I just think it might be setting bad habits, because you're constantly trying to think about how to adjust for the situation at hand.
But really, when you're talking about the Proving Grounds just as a thing, they're trying to put you into real situations that you might see when you're raiding, or while you're in different dungeons, or dungeons not so much, but in raiding for sure, you might come across some of these issues. And so finding a way around normal rotation that you might have on a target dummy, say, or if you had just a group of mobs standing in front of you, what would you do? Okay, well, I'd swipe them a bunch of times, whatever it is. I don't know Feral Druid much. I know Resto Druid really great. Feral, all I know is Feral Druid. Yes, I agree. It sucks to target switch on Feral Druid. It absolutely sucks.
It's awful. And
yeah,
I mean,
it's horrible.
I guess,
but this is supposed to put you in a real situation that you might face when you're raiding. And so, who's to say what's best? If you clear it faster, you're finding ways to improve the situation, not necessarily your rotation.
And I think that's where I like it. I feel like I know my class better now because of it. But it's a memorization. It's a formula. I know when I'm going to pass a level or not, because I'm not adapting to the situation. I'm literally running a script, doing everything the same way, everything the same time. And if I mess up once, or one heal goes off, or one wrong thing happens, it's done. I'm over. And I don't know. Like I said, I like the feature. I love the feature. I think it's great. It infuriates me to no end that I died at 100,000 health on wave 10. I was so close, and I was going to feel so good if I made it. So I love the feature. I question the effectiveness of it, because, like I said, I don't feel like I'm learning how to DPS properly. I feel like it's, at least for Feral Druid, I feel like it's setting bad habits for myself. But it's making me learn the ins and outs of my classes much better. So I don't know. I'm interested. I'm really intrigued by it. And that's why I said it's funny, because I'm really mad about not getting to complete it, but I've got a kind of interesting take on it. I really don't know what to think, but I like what they're doing with it. I like what it's had me do and how I've learned more about my class.
I think your problem comes from the fact that gear is scaled down to such a very, very low item level. Because right now, average item levels are probably anywhere between 515 and 550 plus. And if they're scaling you down to a 463, that means that you're losing thousands of stats. Haste, especially. I don't know the ins and outs of early MOP Feral Druid, but I know you're losing haste, which is your energy regen. Mastery, which is your bleed damage. I don't know how much crit does for you, but something along the lines of what I know is a mage, especially fire. You want tons of crit on fire, but if they scale you down to
well, and that's exactly what the problem is especially with the way that I've learned in specs. I spec very much like a fire mage, and a lot of people will spec with a lot of haste. I like specing a lot of crit because with crit comes an additional combo point and gosh, what else? I forget what else, but it comes an additional combo point so that you can be using your combos faster. So it's very much like a fire mage. Continue.
Right. So I think the 463 item level definitely makes it weird because you have to play specs, or the entire balance of specs isn't tuned for 463 right now. But then again, it's just for learning, so I can see why it's not completely balanced. But I think it would make more sense instead of a 463, be somewhere in the 500s, so that you don't have this expansion gap between where players are right now and what they were a year or a year and a half ago, somewhere around there.
Well, a year ago, yeah. But I think one of the other things too is that, remember that the purpose of this is to get people familiar with new roles or perhaps a new character. And so when you're talking about stuff like that, and you go, well, okay, you're on an alt already, that's the assumption, or you're trying a different role. So maybe we don't know exactly how well you're geared because it could be a new character, new 90. So let's just say 463 and be safe. But they could definitely roll something else out where they knock you down to 500 or something along those lines, or even bring you up to a certain level. As long as it can be consistent and play along with whatever the top guys are dealing with, if that's scaled properly to meet the demands of whatever item level that you're at, that would be great.
It's interesting. I will move on. I don't want to keep talking about it because I've got a single scoped perspective of it, but it's great. It's a great. Well, no, it's just my one opinion, and I understand that other people are getting through it just fine, and that's.
Here's shafting it for 5 hours. Shafting it for 5 hours. Damn it, Blizzard! Damn it! Damn it! I cannot click these buttons harder.
I was sitting there. Hang on, real quick. One last story. I was literally sitting there, and I'm just like sitting there, like doing my rotation as fast as I can. My roommate comes in and he starts talking to me. He like stops mid sentence and like just looks at my hand. I'm like, what? He's like, nothing. He's like, that's fascinating. I was like, what?
You're like smashing the keyboard. Just screw it. I'm done.
It's great. It's a great feature, guys. Go check it out and let us know how your experiences with the Proving Grounds are going in the comments below. Let's move on to the big one, Siege of Orgrimmar. Siege of Orgrimmar has been released and is available all throughout normal mode. In addition, Wing 1 on the new flexible difficulty is available. So, I think, Pat, I saw a tweet from you last night, and Squishy, I know you had been talking about starting a group. Have you guys tried out flexible difficulty, and tell me about your experience?
Well, I did try Flex Raid, and I tried it actually a couple times because the first group that I joined, they did the first couple of bosses, and then they said, you know what, we've had enough. And then I joined another Flex Raid, and they were at boss number 3, so I just went in there and I went, okay, great, let's do this thing. And for the most part, I think that from what I've heard on Twitter and in talking with some of the community, I think for heroic raiders, flex mode is really pretty easy. Go figure. And for those guys that have done normals in the past and maybe they're still doing normal Throne of Thunder type of stuff, this feels about right for them. So that's kind of cool. You know, if it feels right for people, that's great. Especially for those that it's kind of aimed towards. So it felt good. It didn't feel super duper easy, but you know, it didn't feel like Throne of Thunder LFR did earlier today. that I tried. It's like, yeah, nobody's taking any damage. Screw it. All right.
Yeah, I don't need to do anything.
It wasn't that. It was fun. It was cool. It was a good way to see all the different mechanics as well.
Squishy, what about you?
I completely agree with Pat. The tuning seems fine right now. It's the first wing, so we can't exactly tell much yet. Generally, the first wing, they do like it a little bit easier just to have the difficulty ramp up. But
they said the first 8
so
bosses
far,
were going to be easier this time too, correct? I believe.
Yeah.
I think they said 4.
Maybe the first 4. Okay.
With the fourth being a step up.
Yeah, it's definitely supposed to ramp up over time. So as you go through the dungeon, it's supposed to ramp up. And I think that, the teams that are going through on normals this week have said that, hey, we were able to clear, when talking with like heroic groups and stuff like that, we were able to clear, 4, 5, 6 bosses in a couple of hours, and that seemed about right to them. So that's great. So and as long as they're clearing bosses, then we're good. We don't have another Horadon keeping people from actually moving on into other bosses. So that's good.
How do you guys think this this difficulty fills the gap between LFR and normal? Is it going to be that perfect harmonious place for the pug who wants to do it with less responsibility?
Yes, I'd say so. I pugged a flex last night on my Resto Druid. First boss wasn't that bad at all. We got it down 1 shot. Second boss, a tank DC'd and we wiped at 10%. So it wasn't difficult. It was just, well, that guy DC'd, so we couldn't do anything. But for an uncoordinated group that was just built in trade, we did use voice chat. So I think that's along where they want it to be, because they said they want it to be around the 10-man ICC section, which that's kind of what we're getting right now.
Yeah, it felt good. And we still haven't seen what LFR is going to provide as far as a difficulty level goes when it's live. So we don't necessarily know exactly where it's going to be, but LFR is going to have fewer mechanics. It's going to have lots of strangers, and it's going to have less coordination. So if you ask me, is this going to fill a niche? Yeah, I think it will. I think this will be great for those guys that want to see the mechanics in a group environment where they know everybody and they can get in there and chat with people and have a good time. And it's easy. It's easy to, and by easy I mean it's easy to find people that want to do this stuff. It's easy to jump in with people and complete some content. So that part is really great. And that part is what I'm excited about.
What do you guys feel about, I mentioned this before, and Gary was on the show, and he shrugged it off, so I'm going to throw it to you guys. He called me elitist. I think Flex has a great opportunity. I like the group that it's targeted at, but I feel like there is a sense of disconnect from the fun nature that you get in, say, like a progression 10, where you feel like, because the problem is if the same people don't come back every night, or you add 1 extra person, you're no longer in the same lockout. So you don't have that ability to progress from start to finish, or be on like boss 3 and have someone like suddenly log on and be like, oh, hey, come join us. Oh, wait, we have to reset our whole raid. And it's separated into 4 different lockouts. Now, I think I could be wrong, Pat. I think I asked this when we were down at the press conference, and they said that it was the problem with it this time was that, or the reason they did it this time was technical limitations. But do you guys feel that way now that it's out, now that you've had a chance to run it? Do you feel like there's going to be a sense of progression fun for it, or is it just a convenience of, hey, let's all get together and go run something? It's not really about the progression of it.
I think it's more the latter. I mean, I think it really is kind of more, hey, let's go, let's have some fun together, let's, go get some loot. It's not necessarily going to be about progression as much. I think that you're still going to be looking for the normal, regular group. I think that there is something to be said about having a regular group of friends getting together at a regular time to go and down content together and have fun. It's what you can expect. You're not going to be bringing in necessarily a bunch of pugs or anything like that. You won't be bringing in a bunch of strangers. Yeah, it'll be your friends. That's what's kind of cool about normals and heroics. It's your friends. So I don't think that there will be a strong progression. There will be a little bit more, but not strong. Feel for that.
Squishy, what do you think?
I completely agree. Progression, it's going to be weird with this limitation. Obviously, you could downsize if one person doesn't show up and continue your lockout, but it's always going to be weird when that one guy wants to join and you can either start over or continue from where you left off. So it's going to really depend on the raid group, but there's definitely going to be more progression than LFR.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I mean, LFR is just kind of like, hey, let's go in and down some bosses, and let's hope that nobody screws it up for us.
LFRs go queue by yourself and then go back to something.
Exactly, unless you can get like unless you have like a huge super guild or something like that, and you can just go, hey guys, you want to go do something? Then you have all 25 people in that. That doesn't happen for everybody though. So, oh well.
So a big controversy. I think we talked about it maybe last episode, maybe the episode before, was the staggered release of Flex and LFR, mostly Flex. Everyone was in an uproar. What do you guys think? They're still in
an uproar, Mike. They're still in an uproar. They're still there.
You're gonna make me mad, Pat. I won't even pose this as a question. There's so much content to do. There is so much to go do. You can find something to fill your time for the next couple weeks while more wings are released.
Yes.
Do you guys agree?
Yes, and the real thing that I want to say is, there's one thing that I want to say. If you do not have time to commit to the game, then why should the game commit all of its resources to you right away? Why do you need that?
Because I need to see it now, Pat.
I want to see it now. Yeah, you know how long it will take to complete LFR, all 4 wings of LFR, the very first week that it's released? It will take well over, and this is just my guesstimation, well over, let's say, a couple hours per wing. So we're taking a look at least 8 hours of LFR rating for that first week. If you have 8 hours, you have time to grab guys and go into Flex. You have time to grab guys and go into a normal mode raid and try that as well. So, I mean, if you can commit time to this game, you can commit to moving up a notch and maybe getting a group together and doing stuff together.
So hang on, I think all of us are in agreement. I'm going to shift this over to chat because they're playing the opposite side here. So I'm not gonna fight. We're just gonna bring up some of the stuff that they're saying here. So
sure.
One guy said, where is it? He said, because my 15 is just as good as anyone else's.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick. Okay, so you're 15.
Hang on. Let me add one more thing, and then we'll get into it because I think that there's only 2 real points here. They already had it made, so why hold back? So my 15 is just as good as anybody else's, and they've already got it, so why hold back? Those are the 2 we'll take from chat.
Let's take a look at your 15. Okay, your 15 is just as good as anybody else's. Yes, it's true. And so you deserve access just as everybody else does. Yes, that's true. You have access to everything that everybody else has, by the way, because LFR releases at the same time as everybody else. So that's one. That's one. But there's also another cost that comes with this game. It's more than just money. We're talking about time and to learn your class, time to learn these encounters, time to grab teammates that know their stuff as well. There's all the other investments that you make in this game other than that $15. And I understand that LFR players, and I'm not trying to hate on LFR players at all. I'm really not, because I understand that people have issues with timing and not being able to get a full group together and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to just say that argument time and time and time again, there are other costs that come along with this game, and one of them is investing your time and energy into perfecting your class and spec, and finding a team and going together with those guys and downing content. And look at it this way too. Normal and heroics, those guys are getting rewarded for putting in that extra time that you have not been able to commit for whatever reason it is. And it's not necessarily any fault of your own. It's just you can't commit to it. And so, you know, why, if you can't commit time to this game, then why do you need everything right away?
Well, and I think that you put it best and simple with your even your very first statement. Because your 15 is just as good as everybody else. Or why is my 15? Because my 15 is just, guess what? You have access. You can go do what everyone else does. Right. So stop complaining.
Exactly. Right. It's just the time commitment.
Exactly. So, and you know what? Because you don't have the time, when you do have the time, it'll be there for you in a month.
Sure.
The other argument was it exists. It's already there. Why hold back? Just open it. It's there.
There are. Go ahead.
Let's squish you.
I was gonna say you guys kind of covered this last week with was it Bashiok that covered it in his blue post, but he was basically saying that it's already made, but the normal and heroic mode raiders, the ones who are putting in the most time into the raid experience as possible, should be the ones to get the prestige of killing it first. They're putting in the most effort, they're putting in the most time, and then they get rewarded. And then later on, when it releases for the rest of the players, they don't have to put in as much of that as the heroic raiders did.
Sure. Well, and let's put it another way. Okay, so let's say, okay, if we're going to go down that route, okay, let's just say that everybody should have every level open to them very first week, no matter what kind of player they are. And let's forget the heroic and normal.
You know what? Hey, wait a second.
Those guys share lockout.
Wait a second. That guy can get to 2200 rated arena. I want to be 2200.
Right, exactly. No, but let's just say that they opened up the floodgates for everything, so that all of LFR was available right away. You had all of Flex available right away. You had all of normals, all of heroics, and you could do whatever level you wanted to. How many bosses would that be? That would be 56 bosses. That would be 4 rounds that you could do, and that is a lot of bosses. And I'm not saying heroic raiders are not going to be doing LFR necessarily. They're going to do their heroic level, bosses, but they're going to try to optimize their drops, right? So they're probably going to do normal mode and maybe even drop down into flex to try to maximize the drops. So that's 42 bosses. That's 42 bosses. So that they're going to be trying to do. LFR and flex were never meant to compete time-wise with normal and heroic levels. They were never meant to do that. They were meant to be a way so that people could see content. Flex was a little bit more for the friends and family guilds, those guys that were having a tougher time with some of the normal mode rating in Mists of Pandaria, and that's great. But they were never meant to be competitive when it comes to time for normal and heroic modes. They were just there to see the world, just get people involved in raiding somehow. So that'd be a lot of bosses, man. That 56 bosses.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, I want to do the 56 bosses and Proving Grounds and PvP and the Timeless Isle and Ordos, and I want to do it all tomorrow.
Yep. Let's do it tomorrow.
I've cleared off my schedule. You and me
at 5 a.m.
And then I will quit WoW on, let's see, Sunday. I'll quit WoW.
Yeah, I mean, because then there's no reason to play. There's no new content to do, so I might as well just unsub till expansion.
That's right. And I think we talked about this last week. That Ghostcrawler was talking about on Twitter how people that run only LFR raids, that they only do LFR, that there's a propensity to finish the content and then unsub until the next new content arrives because they're kind of done. And I know that some people stick around and try to get as best in slot as they can by doing LFR. I understand that happens as well. But after you get that, then you're like, well, okay, see you later, guys. Bye. I'm going to check out for a month, whatever it is. So, they're trying to lengthen out the game as well. We've got to build up for an entire new expansion as well. So we're going to be at Siege of Orgrimmar. We're going to be here for a while, guys. 6 to 8 months, right? So we're going to be here a while.
Speaking of Siege of Orgrimmar, big news. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. I told you guys I would warn you before we get into it. If you care at all to not know the ending to Siege of Orgrimmar, thank you guys for watching. Follow Squishy right down there at Squishy. Follow Pat right at Pat Crane. Follow me at Mike Shaffnet. We're going to talk about the new Warchief now. So if you guys want to stay, awesome. Let's chat it out. If not, thank you for watching. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor that we have here on Game Breaker known as Audible. Audible.com is a great service with audiobooks to listen to on the go wherever you're at. And they even have books that you know and love that are themed around World of Warcraft. You can start listening to Jaina Proudmoore's Tides of War because that's an important book. The Tides of War is going to be an important book that leads into part of the cinematic of why Jaina is the way that she is. So it might come as a shock to some of you. We've seen her unraveling in the game, but Tides of War really gets into the nitty gritty as to what turned Jaina into this really, I'll just say it, this bitch.
Yeah. Tell it like it is, Mike.
Pretty much.
Tell it like it is.
Storm Rage and Wolfheart are available, but more importantly, the brand new book, Shadows of the Horde vol'jin, is available, and this book is only about 2 or 3 months old at this point, and it's super important to read because it talks about what happened after Garrosh tried to assassinate vol'jin, and you can get a lot of history on it. Why is this important? We'll get into it in a second, but it's because vol'jin's the new Warchief. I spoiled everything.
Dang.
Internet, done. So,
like you're the first to break it on the internet.
I was you heard it here first.
Great.
I've ruined the internet. All right, so Anvilmar was the first guild to defeat Garrosh on the 10-player difficulty, and they unlocked the Alliance ending. Apophysis, I believe, on Shattered Hand was the first guild to stream the Horde version of the final cinematic. So I don't have these queued up. I'll try and get these. If you guys have some opinions, I'll try and queue these up to their individual parts because it's a very similar cinematic, but there's just probably about 30 seconds of each that are different. But ultimately, the big spoiler here, we knew that was coming in the Horde cinematic of who the new Warchief was going to be, and it's vol'jin. So,
yeah,
Pat, I think you and I have talked a little bit about this. Squishy,
I totally called it like a year
it.
ago. I called it like a year ago. I'm like, new Warchief, it's got to be vol'jin. And turns out I was right. I have no, this is just pure dumb luck, people. I have no knowledge of lore or anything like that. I picked a random name out of the hat.
So what do you think? What do you think?
It's not a surprise to me. Like I said, I've known for a year, Mike. Come on. No, but as soon as they started kind of doing the vol'jin character models and stuff like that, I think that everybody was kind of cued in and goes, yeah, it's probably going to be vol'jin. It's probably going to be him. You know, you don't get a character remake unless something important's going to happen, right? Right.
Squishy, did you see this one coming?
I saw it as too obvious, so I pushed it off and assumed it was someone else. I was wrong, apparently, and it was the obvious answer for once.
Right. The other obvious answer would have been Anduin Rin. Let's have an alliance guy lead the horde.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
How would
so
that
here we
work?
go.
That'd
I
be
got it
great.
queued. I'm gonna queue it real quick. The Horde selection of Warchief for your guys' viewing pleasure. If I can get volume. Oh wait, it might help if I unmute.
The Horde needs its true Warchief now more than ever. Yes, but it was you that held the Horde together during this madness. It was you that protected our honor. From this day forward, vol'jin, if you lead, I will follow. I am not worthy.
Nod. I'm not gonna bow.
Give my all
Right.
for the Horde.
So okay, let's look through this real quick because outside of the really ridiculous wild card, like people were, I don't remember some of the ones that people were saying, but like let's take a look at it. I think people weren't ever expecting Thrall to come back. And I think it was really kind of empowering and moving when you saw Thrall kind of kneel and say he pretty much pledged his allegiance to vol'jin. But let's just look through this real quick. Let's see here. Let's see if I can skip ahead.
And by the way, I think we need to call him Goel now.
Goel.
I think he's going by.
So
he's no longer Thrall.
Lor'themar. Why would it have ever been Lor'themar? I know so little about this guy and really know, like, I don't know. I know nothing of Lor'themar. That could just be my own ignorance. I don't feel like he's been fleshed out enough. Bane, right? It's not Karen. Karen was the previous, or is Karen the son? I can't remember.
I have no idea.
Yes.
Karen or Bane. The Tauren one had some story, had some potential to be the next war chief.
Yeah, he's
maybe
young.
There. But I think he's young. Vol'jin's been around. I think someone also mentioned Vol'jin's the only one, and I'm gonna get completely misquoted on this because I'm not Missy, but supposedly Vol'jin is the only remaining member of the original Horde. So of course it makes sense for Vol'jin to step in there. But just real quick, we'll finish this off just taking a look at the other candidates here. The Goblin, I don't even know his name. Sylvanas.
Gallywix.
Gallywix? Well, I wish it was Gallywix just so that we could have had his name. Gallywix is now the new leader of the Horde.
He's too new.
Yeah, he's new.
Yeah.
He's new.
So
Vol'jin's the only guy that's been around forever, so yeah, it makes total sense to have him.
Makes sense. Plain and simple. But what maybe doesn't make sense, or maybe it does, is splitting up the cutscene into two parts. We just took a look at the part that was the Horde. There's something entirely different if you watch the Alliance one. In fact, when since the Alliance one came out first, it actually starts pretty much just right. It's a different conversation that goes on, but let's see if we can just play this here.
Speak to your Warchief.
This is where it picks back up again.
Yeah.
I speak for the Horde.
So he says he speaks for the Horde, and this is something that, like I said, the Alliance cinematic came out first, and people were like, "Well, wait, he's not saying that he's the war chief. He's not saying he's the leader of the Horde. He's just saying he's speaking for them." People were kind of like, "Maybe he's not. Maybe Alliance doesn't get to see who it was." And I think it caused a little bit of confusion, but. What do you guys think? Two separate cutscenes. The Alliance one was a little bit different. You got to see Jaina being a bitch. Two different things going on here. So how do you think this was? How well do you think this was executed?
I think it was done fairly well. It's the way that they split, and then when they meet up again, you could have either part play, and you'd be just fine with the narrative that's going on either side of that. The two groups talking to each other. So I think they did an okay job with it. It's maybe a little weird. I don't know if I really needed to have two different cutscenes for basically the same thing, but I understand, maybe give a little bit of love to the Alliance and say, hey, this one's yours, and then a little bit of love to the Horde and say, this one's yours, and, fantastic, great, perfect. But I don't know. In the long run, I'm just kind of,
I don't know. As an Alliance, but you guys don't play Alliance, if I'm not mistaken, right? You guys are Horde?
I play Alliance.
As an Alliance player, I'm queuing it up right now, but as an Alliance player, do you feel redeemed at all? Obviously Alliance players, we're feeling like they've been getting the short end of the stick here, and I'm going to show you guys the only difference in the cinematic. Does this make you feel redeemed?
No, because, well, one of the things was, I was talking with some guys in my guild, and they said, well, yeah, but they have like all of the Horde characters over there, all the different races and stuff like that, but they don't have Worgen, they don't have, a gnome over there, or whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it was just humans and humans, basically. So, okay. I get it. I understand. So once again, Blizzard is screwed up with these guys.
Oh.
No, I don't know. If
so here's what the Alliance got.
Look at them.
Shut up.
Already they plot against us. Seize this moment, Varian. Dismantle the Horde.
Guardsmen!
So that's it. That's, well, I guess there's Anduin's like, no!
What are you doing?
See? No!
Right.
And then that's it. And then they merge back again. So that's the Alliance versions.
Yep.
I like I said, we've seen Jaina unraveling apart.
Yep. She went all emo.
It's really fun. It's really funny to see her like this. It really shows the character arc that she has undergone. If you go back and watch the Secrets of the Ulduar trailer, where she's trying to play diplomat. She's trying to delay Thrall and Garrosh before they come to the tower because Varian's up there and they don't want to. She doesn't want to start a fight. Completely different. But what's interesting, I think a lot of people are like, is she going to turn on us? Like she's going ape shit crazy. Like not even just like turn around and be like, no, screw the Horde. She's like vendetta against Horde, and justifiably, Theramore was blown up. You can see why she's that way, but I don't know. What do you think the future of Jaina is going to be in this?
She's going to create a rebellion alliance, and that's the next expansion. There you go, fleshed out right now.
The rebellion alliance. That's it. Well, at least then the Alliance will have some stories, so that'll be good.
Well, does that mean that we can change the Horde to the Empire?
Oh
gosh.
And then you have the Rebellion.
Rebel Alliance? Really? I was the only one who made a Star Wars joke? Dang it.
No. Never again.
I'm disappointed, Mike.
Coltrane would laugh with me.
He would love that. He loves everything, though. So, it's one of those things.
All right, so in the video, we see Terran Zoo pretty much come out and say that Garrosh is going to be tried in Pandaria. We were wondering coming up to this, are we going to kill Garrosh? Some people were saying no, some were saying yes. If he's just going on trial, what do you guys think the future for Garrosh is going to be?
Well, I know what Missy said. Missy had an article on GameBreaker.tv. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but she had a little article talking all about what may happen, her thoughts behind this, and I'm going to quote her because I'm not strong with the lore. But she said maybe one of the things that could happen is that Garrosh could escape and go to the Outlands, and then we find the Burning Legion. Look out! So yeah, dun dun dun.
But he's not. He's on trial. So what's going to happen to him?
But if he escapes, then he goes
poking holes right in that theory, shutting you down, putting you back on the spot.
Somehow. He escapes somehow. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen to him? He's just going to sit there for a while, and then he's going to get loose, and he's going to cause problems again, and then we might have to actually do something else. I don't know.
Well, none of us are lore. None of us are lore people, but do we actually know what the Pandaren trial actually occurs? Like, for all we know, they could teach him how to control his anger, maybe, and maybe he'll become good.
Just an anger management program from the Pandarens.
I think Jaina should be the one to teach him about anger.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh my gosh, we still have viewer questions to get to. Holy cow. Real quick, what do you think? What do you guys think? Long show. This cinematic, how do you think this compares? And I'm not even going to say this cinematic, because this is by far and away on a different level. Let's compare this to Wrathgate, the Fall of the Lich King, and the ones that we saw in Dragon Soul. Where does this stand for you guys in terms of memorance and how well it was executed?
Okay, so the voice acting was good. The actual cinematic was good. But at the end of the day, I feel a little let down. I mean, this is kind of like, and this is an extreme case. I'm gonna say that this kind of falls to me. It kind of reminds me of the bridge cutscene in Firelands a little bit, where you expect you really want something big to happen, and then you go, oh no, the bridge just came down, guys. The bridge just came down. All right, we can cross now. That was the cutscene. Thanks a lot, Blizz. So I'm kind of a little disappointed. I mean, that's an extreme case again, but I don't know. Garrosh on trial, great. Now we're gonna have a courtroom drama. That's gonna be the next expansion.
I kind of wanted to see more. I was kind of let down. Like I was like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I mean, the Lich King cinematic was so epic and so cool and brought forth all these different story aspects and stuff like that. This one is not like that at all.
Right.
All right, let's move on to
I think it sets up.
Go ahead, Squish.
I was gonna say I think it still sets up the remaining story, or it sets up future lore. But
right.
Other than that, it wasn't the epic ending that I think we all were expecting when we finally took down Garrosh.
Right.
Maybe that'll come with a heroic only encounter. You never know. We'll check back in a couple weeks when the world first guilds kill it. I really highly doubt it.
True. Very true.
Let's hit up some of these viewer questions and get out of here because holy cow, long show. Remember that we answer your guys' questions every week, so keep an eye on our Facebook or send them in to submit@gamebreaker.tv. We also love video questions. We've got 2 for you guys this week, so keep sending them in and we'll try and show them, but keep them under a minute because sometimes when questions get really long, we lose what the original question was. So, first up.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for answering my questions in the past. I think last week, not enough time was spent talking about LFR and Flex rating and their release dates. You could get ready to cue the hamster if you want, think about it. I think Blizzard did that on purpose, pretty much to make it so LFR raiders had to pay for multiple months. This way we couldn't just pay 1 month, knock out the raid, unsub. They spaced it out perfectly on purpose. I'm just kidding. My question I have is with Connected Realms coming, I think it would be a good idea if we were somehow able to just choose which 11 characters we wanted on our main home screen, regardless of server. I think it'd be a good idea, considering that a lot of WoW fan sites have their own realm, their own guilds on separate servers. I like creating alts on those servers just to kind of see the events and everything that that goes down. I think it'd be a good idea to do that. And real quick, what if you had to choose a battleground that you would like to be opened at a earlier level bracket, which one would it be and why? I was joking around when I was on a level 10, and I was saying how crazy it would be to do Alterac Valley there, with no mounts, no anything. I said pretty much the only way to stop the Zerg would be to get rid of the mounts. I also think it's a terrible idea, but it'd be funny. Thank you very much. Enjoy the show.
All right. So, first question was, do you guys think that it would be a good idea if we could choose which characters we wanted to see on like a home screen for quick access into the characters that we want? What do you guys think?
Could be cool. I mean, I'm not very strongly in support of that. I mean, I think that there's a reason why they do it per server, and that's so that you know exactly where you're popping into all the time and you don't get confused. I think that for some, and maybe it's something to do with how the game is programmed where they can't do that. But I think for some, they might get a little bit confused and click on the wrong guy and then end up in the wrong server that they didn't mean to be in and be like, oh, okay, whoopsie. So at least you're getting into the right server this way. But yeah, I could see doing something like that. That'd be cool.
I think a good quality of life change, but that's about it in my opinion. I mean, it would affect maybe. Sorry.
I was gonna say I think the easiest solution, because I agree, it's a clear thing, but maybe it's just a matter of like a favorites server or tab where it's like you can either just log in and go to the different servers, or maybe you have a specific page that you can put all of your favorites on. That way you can have quick access to maybe. That way it's not forced on everyone.
Yeah. Yep.
Second question, we'll just hit a second question real quick. Is what battleground would you guys make available at lower levels?
He is right. At level 10, AV would be ridiculous. But I could see that opening up even earlier. I mean, it opens up at 50 now, I think. Is it level 50?
I think so.
And so I think you could actually open it up at level 40. It might be a little rough. But AV has always been like a favorite battleground of mine, so I enjoy that one quite a bit. So yeah.
Now here's a thought. What about level 1 AV?
Oh God.
What about level 1 arenas?
I gotta go, guys. I gotta go.
All right, let's take it to our last question. Last video question here. Coming in from Zista.
This is Zista. On After Dark this past week, Kiggles called in and was rather dissatisfied with Garrosh as an end boss. I think Garrosh was the perfect end boss. As mentioned on a previous episode of Conspiracy Craft, it was pointed out that Garrosh, his entire story was fleshed out completely in-game and not through novels or other Warcraft titles. This was the first major end boss that we've had exclusively through WoW, and I believe it was executed properly.
Oh, hell to the no. You do not disagree with the Kiggles. Do not make me come up there to New England, because I will cut you. It took them, what, 9 years to create a big baddie unique to WoW? Please, girl, give me a break. GG, Blizz.
So, what are your guys' thoughts?
For a second, I was like, wait, what? Do I have vent open? Am I in Mumble? Did I forget to mute Mumble over here?
Right. Right.
Is Garrosh the end, a good end boss to the expansion? I think Pat, I think you and I have spoken about this previously. Maybe that was just After Dark. I know I've spoken about this. So what do you guys think?
I'm cool with it. As Garrosh is actually a pretty bad guy, so it makes sense. I was able to catch the beginning of Miss Pandaria on when I was playing Horde, and then I've been able to switch over to the Alliance throughout the expansion. And so, but Garrosh has always been kind of the bad guy, and it's kind of nice to have him be the bad guy for the close of this expansion. I just wish that we would be able to finish the job. It just feels a little bit unfinished, in my opinion, with the cinematic. But other than that, yeah, perfect, awesome.
I agree. They built him up really well throughout the lore. Some of the dailies, just throughout the entire expansion, he's been built up. Maybe not as well as the Lich King, but
right.
it was perfectly fine for me. I'm going to enjoy when we eventually get there, but unfortunately, we don't get to kill him yet. Maybe.
Right.
So
well, not quite yet.
I've got to even say it, and this is something that Zista said that brings up. Again, from Alliance perspective, I didn't get to see this, and I didn't know this. There's a really awesome video on YouTube. If you guys go over to YouTube and look for user Novel87 and look up the story of Garrosh Hellscream, he does a really good job of explaining all of the story that's led up to Garrosh, and it's great. The thing is he was a character that we saw built very slowly. Because he was introduced in Burning, like obviously with Grom Hellscream, he was around, but he was kind of first introduced in Outlands, and then we saw him become a part of the Horde and kind of try and live up to his father's name, and then we saw him transition into one of the generals out in Wrath of the Lich King, and then we saw him kind of take over as Warchief in Cataclysm. I got to agree with Zista. Blizzard did a good job of developing him over the course of World of Warcraft. However, I don't think they did a good job of explaining the lore about him to anyone that wasn't looking. Alliance and Horde players that maybe weren't paying attention. And that's why he's so underwhelming in comparison.
Well, in this expansion, they did a pretty good job of bringing Garrosh to be the bad guy for the Horde characters. I mean, I don't think that if you were a Horde, you didn't understand that there was something going on, that Garrosh was behind it, and that it was not a good thing. I mean, they cleared out an entire place of Orgrimmar, with just Corcoran guards and stuff like that, and then you have all the dailies, the weeklies over in patch 5.3 where you're helping out vol'jin to get back at Garrosh essentially. So I think they did a good job for the Horde, not necessarily as good for the Alliance, but the Alliance should be kind of shut out to some of that information just because it makes sense, right? However, we were let in 5.3 and kind of became a part of this rebellion force with vol'jin. So, yeah, I think they did an okay job with it for Alliance. Not maybe the perfect job, but it was better for Horde.
Pat Crane, you can follow him right down there at Pat Crane. Be sure to catch CTR live every Sunday at the crack ass of dawn for Pacific Coast people.
That's right. Gotta get up early.
What time does that go live?
It goes live noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. So it's all good.
Be sure to go check that out. Squishy, you can catch him on the HXC podcast, which also goes live, but that's Sunday nights. You can follow him right down there at Squishy. Squishy, thank you so much for coming on tonight and helping us out with the show. We really, really appreciate it, as Olivia was not around, so thank you.
No problem. Had a lot of fun, so.
Be sure to catch me on World of Warcraft Waypoint that goes out every Tuesday. Squishy helps produce that with me, so be sure to check that out. As well as thank you guys for watching Warcraft Legendary. I'm all over the place. I've got so many things to talk about.
What are you doing?
I don't even know anymore. We've been talking for 2 hours. I'm ready to go to bed, but I gotta go home and work because I spent way too many hours in the proving grounds today. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Legendary goes live. If you guys haven't watched it live at gamebreaker.tv/live every Thursday at 8 p.m. PST. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out gamebreaker.tv, the website for all of your MMO related news. See you guys next week.